A long-awaited space mission in the coming year could herald the start of a new era where so many science fiction dreams finally begin to cement themselves as science fact. But first we must pass a critical test of our own making that pits our technological expansion into orbit against the Sun itself. It's not that difficult to predict what science stories we'll be talking about over the next year. Artificial intelligence, climate change and advances in biotechnology will remain front of mind. But there's a pair of happenings just beyond our planet that I'll be watching closely, because they amount to tests of a sort that could determine the trajectory of our species. The first story you've probably already heard about. NASA aims to launch its Artemis II mission by the end of the year, carrying humans on a journey around the Moon and back. This marks the first time anyone has traveled farther than low Earth orbit in more than 50 years. The last time NASA astronauts made such a trip, the original impetus was Cold War competition between rival empires. Looking back now, there's some sense that we got to the Moon a little bit too soon. We made it, and then didn't quite know what to do next. This time around, the incentives are different. There's still a fair number of people who don't understand the point of spending so much on the trip, but the world has changed in the last half-century. The climate crisis and a number of interrelated questions around our natural resources make it a salient time to get more serious about broadening our horizons to search for new means, and perhaps even new locales, to sustain life as we know it. Elon Musk talks a big game about making humanity a multiplanetary species as an escape hatch from our overheating world, but there are far more practical, and less sexy, aims to consider in the much shorter term. Mining asteroids or lunar regolith for valuable materials could mean fewer contaminated waters on Earth and less destruction of Appalachian mountaintops, for example. The billionaire with a more pragmatic vision for space is probably Jeff Bezos, who once envisioned offloading all heavy industry to orbit or beyond, in order to preserve Earth as a pristine garden world. The crewed Artemis missions, starting in 2024, could be the harbinger for this new age. The program's goal is to establish a permanent presence on the surface of the Moon for the first time in history, including an outpost in lunar orbit. Just as a few servers across the United States in the 1960s laid the groundwork for what is today's global Internet, Artemis could establish the foundation of humanity's new multi-world infrastructure. That is, if the other story I'm watching in 2024 doesn't make all of this impossible by erasing many of the technological gains made since the dawn of the space age.